ISO on crypto Twitter. We got an awesome episode for you guys today, with lots to talk about, lots to get into. But before I get started, would you please do me a favor, smash that like button, make us look good for the YouTube algo. Also want to take a quick second to thank our sponsor Phemex, one of the only non-KYC derivatives exchanges left in crypto. Click the link in the description below to get up to $6,000 in sign-up bonus. Now, the last thing I'll say before we get started here on Tools of the Trade, we are not financial advisors, and this information is for educational purposes only. Welcome, everyone. It's good to be back. Trip, how you doing, my man?
I'm good. It's just surviving the summer of some of the worst price action I've ever seen. But,
some of the slowest price action, right?
Yeah,
it's been a very low volatile summer, to say the least.
There's trades to be had, but few and far between. We just got a little bit of volatility in the last 24 hours, but I still have like an uncertain feeling in around the market. So we can get into it. It's exciting for you to be back. Looks like you had a record indication.
Definitely was the highlight of my 28 years on this earth. Giga Chad Summer 1.0 was definitely one to remember. Looking forward to having you with me next year.
I don't know.
Should be fun. No, we're going to get you over there to Serbia. It should be a good time. But yeah, lots to talk about in the market. Before we kind of hop into crypto, I want to get your take on the risk window we kind of talked about a couple of days ago, last week. Just give people a little bit of color on the DXY, the Fed, CPI coming up August 10th, I believe. And kind of what's your thesis on how we're going to trade going into that event?
Yeah, so let me pull up kind of my macro tab. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess I'm a little surprised that the market, I mean, look, it's still in an uptrend, right? Like things are going up. But yesterday you saw a little bit of rotation outside of the big AI leaders and whatnot into like other things like some of the gig economy stocks, other sectors. So is that good for the market? Well, there wasn't that much breadth before that in terms of like, what the leaders were just, a very specific subsector of tech, right? So now it's branching out. Maybe you're getting some rotation, just kind of like you do, and it's called crypto and like altcoins and whatnot. I will say that this sneaky move in crude going up like 23% was something that I don't really notice that, but it can create a little bit of fear or weakness over here in risk in terms of like recessionary fears and stuff. I think it's personally short-lived. I mean, if you look at where crude came from, right? Like oil prices have been in a downtrend. So this move up, maybe as a result of you're going to see a little bit of weakness here, or just like maybe some consolidation where, I don't know, profit-taking investors are looking at it like we've had a good run. Like August can be slow, right? And so you don't necessarily have to go down, but you can kind of chop. And so the events that you just talked about, those are big ones. CPI is
August 10th.
It's August 10th?
Yep. And then the ETF, the first approval decision or approval or I guess not rejection, but extension is August 12th, I believe.
Okay. So that is an interesting data point. Yeah. So if you can see this, if anyone ever wants to look at like an economic calendar, trading economics is really good. And then you can choose the country. And so you can basically sort it by the US, and you're going to get consensus forecast and then the actual when it comes in. But it just gives you like a better sense of what's coming up kind of on the calendar in terms of the macro front. Even though like a lot of this stuff hasn't mattered that much, because I still think the market has just said, okay, the Fed's probably done, and like AI and tech are leading it. So there are two pretty big tailwinds. We'll see how that goes. I mean, markets typically trend for like a year, right? Like we went down for a year all last year, right? We started the year, we've gone up. So are we going to stop going up like into Q4? I personally don't think so. We might go through some rough patches, but like trend is largely up. If BTC went down for like, maybe it bounces a little bit here, but it goes down more, or equities start to outperform it a lot more again, then like this is interesting to me. So that's kind of how I've looked at this whole landscape of like some of the macro stuff, BTC relative to the market, the dollar, and crude being something that like I didn't realize how quickly it was moving and how much it's gone up. And that can just be a near-term pressure on risk. So that's my quickest, dirtiest summary.
Like it. I'm gonna take over here and talk about BTC a little bit. So yeah, I've been gone for a month, and you talk about this month-long chop, and I really didn't miss much, right? Like we were in this range for what, like about a month until we actually broke down, 32 days, call it. So interestingly enough, nothing really happened while I was gone, and then it wasn't until literally Nick and I were getting on the plane to fly back to America, markets started nuking, of course. So when you have a range breakdown from a month-long consolidation, you do expect some sort of continuation. Now, at first glance, we had this move down to 28.8, consolidated, and then just yesterday or last night we really had the big nuke that stopped me out of like all my positions, first of all. But interestingly enough, when I look at this from a holistic point of view, this, as everyone knows, is the daily Kijun. This is the mean reversion for a trending market. We were above it for all of March and May, and then we broke below it, touched the cloud, got back up, and now we're trying to flip it, right? So like just from a simple SR perspective, 28.5 to me has just been like a key level to hold, right? If I just draw a midpoint, it's kind of like that was the range high here. We tried flipping it, came below it, etc., tapped it here, and now it looks like we're trying to tap it here. So like this and this right here is like the simplest part of like an SR flip. Now we didn't, so this is actually Coinbase, right? So Coinbase went down to 28,477. I'm pretty sure no other exchange did. They did like 28.6. Now the daily Kijun is at 28,330-ish, call it. We didn't tap it yet. Now that does make me kind of hesitant, just because I would like to see the confluence around the daily Kijun being tapped, because if I throw the 2-day on, the 2-day daily Kijun, the 2-day Kijun is also at 28.3. Then if I throw the 3-day, the Tenkin's very close as well. And then last but not least is this weekly setup right here, which I'm going to talk about at length now. So the Tenkin is at 28.3, and until this weekly candle closes inside the cloud, there is a potential for an edge-to-edge setup. Now, for those of you who don't know, the edge-to-edge is one of my favorite trading setups for trending markets. Basically what it is, when the blue line is above the L line, you have a cross here. This is called a weak TK crossover. The Tenkin, the blue line, is above the Kijun, the L line. Next, you need to have the Chiku span above price. So this is basically the current price plotted back 30 periods. And if you relate that to where the price was 30 periods ago back in January, since this is a weekly time frame, we are currently above price in relation to that. And then last but not least, you need the actual candle to close inside this cloud, right? So this candle will not close for another 5 days. It's a weekly candle. So once this candle closes inside the cloud, you technically have a weekly edge-to-edge setup. Now, the way you would play it, let's say if you bought 23, if you didn't, let's say it closes right at the weekly open of some sort of doji wick. You put your stop below the cloud. I always use this bottom part of the cloud, and then I'm targeting the top of the cloud, which is 42K. So from a risk reward perspective, it's an attractive trade. Now, however, 42K, this trade doesn't happen tomorrow, right? And we talk about August being a slow month, potentially going into Q4. Now, I would kind of expect this trade to play out over multiple weeks to months. I wouldn't expect this to play out actually probably till the end of the year to get to 42K. So, when it comes to ETH, I'm actually super bullish on ETH just in general. I'll talk about ETH BTC in a second, but ETH on the daily time frame did hit the Kijun. It swept it, and it swept this. They had these bunch of equal lows here, like 1825, call it. We swept that. We came right into the cloud at 1811. Some of our favorite derivative exchanges wicked pretty low, which would have been some nice fills. But neither here nor there. The fact that we wicked into this mean reversion level at 1825 and have bounced off it, and I think we're currently sitting just below the weekly open, right? Like $10 short. Yep. So point being is ETH to me right now doesn't have a catalyst to push it forward. But if we look at ETH BTC, this level right here, this 0.063 to 0.06 has been my level for, since basically, what was this? I think I talked about it in December. And we've been grinding at this SR. So we came into it, moved up, came into it, moved up, came into it, consolidated inside, and we're still pushing up. So the fact that ETH BTC is holding this 0.06 level leads me to believe that going into the fourth quarter, and especially going into next year, ETH is going to outperform. Now, it doesn't mean it has to happen right now. Obviously, we're seeing a move down on ETH. ETH got swept and destroyed on this move down while Bitcoin kind of held its own. So to talk about ETH USD for a second, the weekly edge-to-edge setup still has at least probably 2 months until it actually becomes active, until we kind of pass into the cloud, probably in September, October, and then we're probably looking at this 28K level. So I'm not expecting much from ETH in the short term. However, I would welcome any opportunity to buy, below 1800 again on ETH, because this key June to me again at 1600 is very interesting moving forward, because again, this was supposed to be a higher low, but we have yet to make a higher high. So this is an unconfirmed higher low at 1620. So again, just like on BTC, that 24/7 level, this 1620 level on ETH kind of is not safe in my mind. There's a higher low to be put to sweep this and kind of take that. But that's kind of my short-term analysis on ETH. What are you looking at, Trip?
Yeah, so again, just taking the daily, like similar bull trend line here as Bitcoin. 50-day and 100 are like kind of like basically sitting on top of each other. And the key June was always something that we wanted, right? And so we did get it. Like we got like the zone that we wanted to buy. And this, like, again, can it like kind of just dance around here? And maybe like 200-day moving average is really not far away, 1780. It's also like a diagonal trend line, basically on the daily. If you were to draw that, like a touch here into the 61.8 into liquidity would be like, I would buy that. Like that is like what I've been waiting for. And could that come later on? Again, sidestepping into this, yeah, maybe. This is a pretty powerful buyback, though, so you can't ignore that. For like a 4-hour chart, though, like looking at that, we had two important sweeps. We labeled liquidity pockets earlier. We've had these labeled. They hit directly. Like you could also draw this diagonal, right? Like this is almost your breakout from this. You could call this an inverse head and shoulders. You're kind of retesting it.
No, it's in the neckline. Yeah.
You're not really retesting like these highs, which is your 61.8, but you're getting a reaction in a liquidity pocket that we had talked about. We said 1800 to 1820 is probably going to be like where it bounces. If you look at the spaceman levels, like you ran the previous monthly low and the weekly low.
Yep. And you're trading back above those now too, to keep in mind.
Yeah, similar to how BTC, like, so again, like, do we reject here at around 1860, around this mid, or do we go, or maybe it's like the top of the cloud up here, 70, or do we go for the high up here? I don't really know, but this is a bullish reaction. So this is a combination of probably buying and shorts closing into an area where people identified. I mean, you ran all the range lows here. Like,
yep.
This could easily be the move, right? Like this could be the start of it. I guess I just want to see a little more, because I've seen price go up and bounce and then come back down, and that's where you buy it. And if we go to the liquidity on it for ETH, because I think this is actually like really interesting. If you go to the 12-hour right here, and this is Binance ETH, like that bright yellow up there is 1860, 1862, right? So you hit this, then you hit gaps. So you really need like some fuel to push up into the 1890, like 1900 area. You can hit this and then come down, and maybe it goes down to 1842, or it's starting to come into that lower 1800 zone that you were just referring to.
Yep.
On the 7-day, we can look at what we did hit, but what we also missed. So we tagged this zone initially, tried to find support, and then it kind of it died, right? But we didn't come down to this. I mean, I thought it was going to come into like 1790 to 1800, basically. Didn't grab it, but here's now your resting liquidity at 1890, 1900. I don't know what that's like a weekly level or not. That might be like the previous weekly high that's sitting up there. And then I over the weekend, ETH was moving. I think it went up to 1884 and failed like 3 times. I was thinking that you were going to get 1940.
1905 was what I was looking for, like those
I
equal
was
highs.
I was thinking you were going to get this liquidity, right? And then that morning I was like, this does not, like, it should have gone up, or maybe like even at the open, but we had the whole curve and bald thing happen, so that's obviously going to put pressure on price. But to me, like, maybe it comes up into here, and then you come down here and grab this, and that would be in line with like what BTC goes up, sidesteps into that channel, and then ETH would be doing the same thing.
We got Maker. I'll take that one if you want to take a peek at the liquidity. So Maker in general, I was trading this up, I think early last week on the long side. Let's just zoom out for a second, right? So high time frame, Maker looks great. This was consolidation from its opening price. We came into it a couple times, tested as support, flipped resistance, slipped into support, and now we're kind of moving up into the cloud. So from a high time frame perspective, Maker actually looks really good. I think A16Z and a few other big funds have been selling it recently, which is interesting. Bullish selling, right? Prices just going up now that their VCs are leaving. We don't get the key June or the TK crossover until October, oddly enough. So right here, you see the blue dot finally goes above the yellow. That is the week of October 23rd. When this happens, and if this can happen sooner, of course, but if you close into the cloud here, 23, 2200 and 3500 are two interesting levels to keep in mind going into next year. And I say next year just because weekly edge to edges on alts, even Bitcoin itself, usually don't tend to play out for several months at a time. So you have to be cognizant of the time frame when you're looking for trades of this caliber and nature. You have to be very patient with them. I don't necessarily think they're levered trades that you can take. They're better off taking spot. But neither here nor there. 2200 and 3400 are upside targets you would look for probably going into 2024. But if we, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here. On the daily time frame, however, structurally, this has been bullish, right? Higher highs and higher lows, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. And now you're kind of making marginal higher highs and marginal higher lows. I would not be surprised that this is kind of getting slightly exhausted right here, this structure. We had a very bullish reaction, and we'll probably close just almost above this high. I think it'll really depend. If we close above 1316 on the daily, this probably has more juice to probably sweep this 1361 squeeze that we had, maybe up to 1400. But if it doesn't, I would think that we're probably going to get some sort of pullback, at least to the low 1200s. And then I don't know if you see liquidity on that, but
that's
going straight up.
There's 288 longs to 55 shorts, and the deltas, like, you just squeezed everyone.
Oh wow, yeah, I see that.
Can you see it?
Yep, now we do.
Yeah, this is scary.
That's waiting for a higher low somewhere.
Yeah. But this is not something that I would like this. All these people, or they just buy Hasaka's tweet or something. Yeah, probably. No thanks. Will not be playing that.
There might be actually a short trade there, right? If you sweep that top lick at like 1350.
This is definitely a short trade somewhere.
Yeah. We run the rest of the shorts. I'd almost be looking to fade that just because it's had a great run. I still think it's probably a good play going into next year, but the trend seems slightly exhausted and due for a pullback.
Where's the daily Tenkin?
Daily Tenkin's all the way at 1100.
Yeah, here you go.
That's a long way down, my friend. That's even lower. Yeah.
Sure.
It would run those equal lows to your left at 1150. Interestingly enough,
this guy's getting taken. This guy's getting taken. This one, I mean, just
I wouldn't be surprised you do a full, lick delta reversal at that point, because it really has been up only ever since end of June.
Yeah, so interesting to keep on the radar for shorts.